Focuses on recent trends in silver recycling. As the world moves towards more sustainable practices, as the world moves towards, better carbon neutrality, it's time for us to also move silver to a bigger sphere of discussion. And that is why this session features recent trends in silver recycling. And it's time for me to start inviting our guests onto the stage. The session's moderator is Mr. C.P. Abidh of Ahlatci Metal Refinery. Mr. Abidh, he's the general manager of Ahlatci Metal Refinery, and he brings a wealth of expertise in the precious metal sector. His recent tenure as an AML expert at the Ministry of Economy, UAE, United Arab Emirates, solidified his proficiency in managing complex regulatory environments and cultivating key relationships. Everyone, please put your hands together. Let us hear a gentle round of applause for our session's moderator, Mr. C.P. Abidh. So as he walks in, it's time for me to introduce our next live speaker. Mr. Abidh is here. Sir, please take your place on the stage. Inviting up next, Mr. Kinjal Shah. Mr. Kinjal Shah is going to specifically talk on a study of silver purity level in silver jewellery across India. Mr. Kinjal Shah takes care of Asian Development Responsible Jewellery Council. And as the head of Asian Development at the RJC, the global standard setting organization for jewellery and watch industry, Mr. Kinjal has a strong focus on sustainability, ethical sourcing, responsible business practices, and he works extensively across Asian markets to promote the adoption of RJC's certification standards. His efforts have been pivotal in helping jewellery businesses across the region align with the global ESG benchmarks, enhancing traceability, and build greater consumer trust in the supply chain. Everyone, welcoming Mr. Kinjal Shah onto the stage. Joining us online is yet another towering figure, a stalwart of the industry, I could say. Joining us online is Mr. Tarek Shakarchi of MKS PAMP Group Limited. Mr. Tarek is the head of strategic operations at the MKS PAMP Group, which is a global leader in precious metals and financial services. With a heritage deeply entrenched in bullion trade and refining excellence, Mr. Tarek Shakarchi brings decades of experience in navigating global markets, developing responsible supply chain, and identifying high-impact growth areas across the precious metals industry. As he joins this session online, he will offer insights into the evolving role of gold and silver in global finance, ESG-aligned sourcing, and emerging strategic trends shaping the future of precious metals. I leave this session over to our moderator for the session, Mr. C.P. Abidh.
So I have an esteemed panel in the form of Kinjal, who's representing a large organization, and Mr. Tarek, who's online, third generation into the business with a lot of heritage from MKS. I'll start with Kinjal. So Kinjal, the topic that we are discussing today is recycling. So we are hearing a lot of news about companies who are moving away from other sourcing practices, and maybe because of carbon net zeroing or for various reasons. Some of the bigger players, whether it be Prada or some of the big brands, they are moving to recycling. So as an industry organization, I would like you to shed some light on your observations about this shift. What are the challenges that such companies are facing, if at all? And what are the benefits of doing this? And what's your take on this? What are the benefits? What are the challenges? And what you think is the way ahead?
So thank you very much, Abidh, for the a very important question. And I would like to thank Eventel organization for inviting me and also to join RJC as a supporter member uh, to definitely promote sustainable business practices across all their events and any of the initiatives. So your question is very important, and I can say that even these panels are very creatively designed and planned, because what we are talking right now, it's probably all responses of the previous panels which panelists were talking about, that what we can do innovatively, how we can change the way of consumers and stakeholders looking at silver and silver jewelry or silver industry in in totality. So recycling of silver, yes, people have spoken about marketing, innovative strategies, shop in shop and whatnot. I can clearly say that silver is one of the very important element in the gems and jewelry industry. And now with the prices growing up of silver as well as gold, there is a huge community is going to, those who are price sensitive, they are going to focus for silver jewelry, and that has been happening based on the figures which we have been hearing, which has gone from 3,000 tons to double the amount last year, which Chirag has said yesterday. So one thing is that industry is growing the way, it's a very normal way of growing. But another way is that how we can innovatively do it. And that's where recycling of silver basically plays its role. Now, see, it's very important for everyone to understand that why recycling of silver is now, now a lot of talked about, and what is the importance of recycle of silver jewelry. So as Abidh has said that, most of the top brands, those who have either started jewelry or those who are already into jewelry businesses since long, whether they are into gold or silver jewelry, they have started mandating only recycle silver jewelry or recycle metals jewelry. The major reason behind it is that every company now has understood, mostly internationally, they have understood that, what is the importance of sustainability, what is the importance of net zero, creating less carbon footprint while doing their business. And as a part of that, they are basically mandating everyone to have a recycle silver or recycle gold or recycle metal jewelry. And that's where a few leaders have initiated this trend. And they are actually also monitoringly supporting their vendors while they are only requesting for recycled jewelry or recycled silver jewelry in particular. So that's where I see commercial motivation is very important, as you know, Abidh, in our industry. And most importantly, it's not only for jewelers. So when we are talking about jewelers, we have to talk about, as far as recycling is concerned, we have to talk about the entire ecosystem. So we need recycle gold refiners or silver refiners also. We need to have B2B players also, jewelry manufacturers, and we need to have eventually the retailers, those who are mandating it. So there is a huge commercial advantage, but at the same time, we need to look into why people are doing it now. So sustainability is very important, whether you believe it or not. There was a time when I started talking about sustainability in the gold and metal industry, and people never used to like me. And today, it's the era where you go in any conference, you go in any events, you go in any jewelry trade show, there is always talk about sustainability practices, whether it is in a way of ESG practices or net zero or carbon footprint and all. So yes, it is a challenge, a big challenge in terms of you have to change your mindset. Industries need to change your mindset. In the previous panel, out of 4 panelists, 2 were RJC certified members and rest of the 2 were not RJC certified members, and they were very clearly mentioning that we are more focusing only on domestic market, whereas rest of the other panelists, they have not spoken, but they are more focused on exports as well as domestic market. And it's very simple and easy that, you know, if you want to innovate, then only you can grow internationally also. So recycling that way is very important. And you know, as far as challenge is concerned, I don't think it's a big challenge. It is all about mindset change. And recently I've seen in India as well as internationally, UAE also, you might have observed that a lot of gold refiners are now going not only for normal RJC, but they are going for chain of custody, which includes the recycling of gold and recycling of silver, because that is adding more value to their business model. It is giving more marketing strength to their organizations.
Thank you, Kinjal. Though RJC is an international organization, Kinjal focuses on the Asia region. And Tarek, you are part of the Shakarchi family, which spreads its wings globally. But we'd like to hear from you the Western perspective of what just Kinjal spoke. So how was the recycled responsible source precious metals evolving in the Western part of the world? And what are the companies in the European region doing about this, which includes MKS PAMP?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Abidh. And to add a bit to what Kinjal was saying, I think you definitely are seeing a stronger or, you know, more long-standing trend and shift towards recycling in the West, whether it's Europe or the US, than you are in regions such as Asia and such as India. Ultimately, I think what's really important is that it becomes very hard to enact all of this change if it isn't driven by the end customer. So the end customer either being the retail customer of the big brands or the big brands themselves. Usually it's a kind of a combination of both, where the end customers put pressure on the brands and then the brands change. Some brands because they believe in it, some brands because they have the pressure from their end customers. And I'd say we've seen consistently this change happen in Europe and in the US for the past kind of, you know, whether it's 7 to 10 years, innovation over the past 3 years. What's very interesting when we talk about precious metals and we talk about recycling is, and I'm sure Kinjal has had a lot of experience with this, is the definition of what is considered as recycling. So one of the big shifts, which is always very important, and it's a bit of a hand-holding experience, it's a lot of conversations, is the educational process in terms of wanting recycling. So that's why I'd say the shift takes very long, because sometimes we have big brands that come to us and say, hey, we want recycled, but they haven't yet even figured out what recycled means to them. And I think that's something which is very important. I do think that recently in the US, with maybe, you know, some of the changes at a governmental level, we're seeing a bit of a pushback in certain areas in what they consider, you know, responsible sourcing, but that's more maybe on an individual brand itself. Our biggest customers within these markets are still very much focused, and they're thinking 10, 20 years down the line. I'd say it's easier for these changes to, you know, Kinjal mentioned the commercial aspect of it, and unfortunately it does come down to commercials. So that's why we'll see these shifts sooner in areas as, you know, Europe or the US, where the spending power is higher today, just because people are willing to pay up for that, and there is additional work that's required from the supply chain, both in segregation, traceability, in good practices to recover this material. So it's someone across the value chain has to pay for it, and ultimately it has to be driven by the customer. And we're seeing it happen in the West, and we have, and we're continuing to see them. And we think there's trickle-down effects that are going to happen into Asia and into India, and that's also mainly going to, not mainly, but essentially come a lot from a regulatory perspective, because beyond just the, let's say, the ethical value at an individual level, there are also other critical elements from maybe a governmental or regional area, which are also quite important.
All right, Tarek, you briefly mentioned about the regulatory aspect. Yes, commercials are what drives business, but in current day and age, regulation plays a big role. So we'd like to know how the recent changes in regulations in Europe have influenced your approach towards recycled metal, and if you can enlighten the audience about any upcoming regulatory changes that you are expecting, or something that the audience in India should be aware of and be prepared for.
So it's a very good question, and it's not one which I think is necessarily easy to answer. And the reason why I say this is because when we talk about precious metals, or we talk about critical minerals, which is really a big area of focus for the EU and the US in their own rights independently, there's a lot of talk of precious metals, and there's been quite a few debates if silver would be put on the list or not. Today, silver is excluded of both lists, but the US government recently mentioned that it was critical, and there's been some chatter that it might become, considered a critical mineral in Europe. So I'd keep an eye out for that, because ultimately, once the governments do recognize, and I think we're going to see this, we're seeing this happen now in certain minerals, and we're going to see it happen in silver, whether it's in the next 6 months or in the next 3 years, then there's a significant amount of focus, subsidies, investment that happens. The EU Commission, they released their paper on raw materials not too long ago, and they also selected 47 projects, which, they're supporting with fast tracking when it comes to permitting, subsidizing them, easier access to debt, whether in the private sector or in the public sector, and quite a few of these were focused on PGMs. Silver, again, wasn't part of it, but it gets mentioned in these reports. The issue is, again, this educational process that we're seeing at the consumer level also needs to happen, I think, at a governmental level. And today, while I think the regulations are important, they're going to come, and they're going to come when governments start to realize more and more the importance of securing silver over the long term for new industries, and when we see this shift into a more electrical based economy, which is happening in areas in the far, such as China, and has been happening for quite a while. So what I was just wanted to add is, while we don't necessarily see that today, because of the good work of associations such as the RJC, there is already a lot of the groundwork that is being formed and founded for what is to come.
All right. Coming back to you, Kinjal, Tarek briefly mentioned about the consumer awareness bit, and a large part of the last panel was discussing the same. So when it comes to consumer awareness, what you think have happened in the recent years, and what you think is happening currently, and what are the efforts of RJC and its members to increase the customer awareness towards the recycled metal, or in specific the recycled silver?
See, the role of RJC, as we know, is that the motive is to ensure consumer confidence in jewelry and watch industry across the globe. Now, how we can do is, it's very important. Yes, we need to be doing business ethically. We need to protect our employees. We need to protect our reputation. And that's what it's been covered under Code of Practices, which is a mandatory standard of RJC. And it's all about ethical business practices. What innovation we can add in to make sure, consumers are more aware, and consumers are more connected with our product. That's where chain of custody and recycling comes into play. Because see, there are enough surveys available which clearly says that by 2027, 70% of spends on anything, it will be considered by the Gen Z or younger people. So even if you are, per se, if you are buying a car in your home, what you do is that you don't buy like earlier, you go and purchase. It's a family decision, you involve everyone, and that's what is growing more. Now this younger generation, they are more concerned about what actually we are buying, how we are spending our money, where we are opening our wallet. Are we opening to the companies, those who are really helping communities? Are they really taking stands when very important things comes out in community and all? So it is all boils down to ethical business practices. Now, yes, ethical sourcing is one very important point which everyone is talking about, but what innovation we can add in, and that's where the recycling has been added. So there are two-step process, like two forces. Of course, all big brands need to really communicate to their stakeholders, government officials, and and their business partners that we are really working ethically. But at the same time, most important thing is that there need to be a great impact on the sales. There need to be a great impact on consumers. And that is the reason why all those big brands, right now they are doing, they are only sourcing from recycled silver or recycled metals jewelry, which very clearly communicates their commitment to the environment and to the Mother Earth, or to our entire gems and jewelry industry, which will eventually, be converted and communicated like how less carbon footprint we are creating, and that's where our entire ecosystem need to work. So ultimately it's two-way process. Of course, our stakeholders are very important, and government officials are asking, but our consumers are also very rigorously only opening up wallets to companies, those who are really taking steps and communicating how ethical they are. And RJC is supporting all this very, like-minded people to ensure that, how you can have a recycle metal definition. So Tarek has also spoke about different definition of recycled silver. And I can say that as far as recycled metals definition, RJC has the strongest and toughest definition, because that will leave no loops for any industry or any stakeholders to have any question on the companies, those who implement recycle metals. And that's how you can very confidently communicate to your business partners. If you are in B2B, you can communicate to your retailers. If you are in retail, you can very easily communicate to your consumers that we are absolutely 100% recycle brand, and this is how we are creating less carbon footprint. And that's how they can increase sales, but at the same time they can charge premium also. So that is adding not only social, but it is also socio-economic benefit to the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, so Tarek, coming back to you, it's very clear there is an opportunity there. So the opportunity is the growing acceptance of the recycled metal. So as a young leader, what is your thoughts on how the metal industry or refiners like you or the rest of the industry who's watching you here should capitalize on this?
So I think it's a great question, and what ultimately I think is very important is if we project ourselves, 10, 15, 20, we try to think very long term as a business of 10, 15, 20 years down the line. What comes back to us is that we realize that if we're not adding any value to the people who are doing the recycling, who are doing the recovering, then we won't have a role to play, because if what we do is relatively easy from a technical perspective on the refining side. Our technology hasn't changed over the past, 30, 50, 80, even 100 years in a lot of cases. So we want to support and add value there, ideally find ways to partner, but really integrate to, help and accelerate that growth, so that we can then, add value to our final product. If we look at them like just a typical supplier and say, okay, these guys have recycled material, or they have waste that now is at a level that I can refine, we're, adding very little to no value, and we won't be, they're going to probably be about us in 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So we really need to find ways to support them early on, integrate ourselves together in partnerships, or whether it's in, whether it's financing, whether it's technical support, whether it's all of these other areas. So I think the winners from this kind of shift to recycled material are going to really be the ones that have access to the source, have access to the supply chain, and the ones to support that. And what's good there is that not only will you win commercially down the line, but it's also where you're going to have the biggest impact down the line as well.
All right, thank you, Tarek. Kinjal, you have briefly mentioned about the chain of custody and code of practice and all those things. I would like to understand what you have spoken about the sustainability aspect as well. So how to measure the sustainability impact of switching to recycle metal, and what is the metric used by your member companies, and how is this communicated to the various stakeholders? How's the way of expressing the metric that they have measured?
Yeah, so see, it's very important how we communicate, and if we communicate in a right fashion, then we'll have more and more companies, those who implement this, and will keep on adding. Like I can very proudly say that last 2 years back, when I was speaking in or participating in a silver conference, I've started talking more on silver, recycled silver. And today, very proudly, I can say 4 of the gold refiners sitting in this room are not only, they are also gold refiners, but they are also silver refiners with the recycling claim in their RJC claim. So that really clearly communicates the need of recycled silver and how it is adding value to their business proposition. So that's very important. See, as far as consumer awareness, as I've covered my response on previous question, consumers are very smart nowadays, and they absolutely know what they want to buy, and that is the reason why all these big brands have moved way too ahead. There are few brands which I know that they are only doing recycling silver jewelry since last 5 years, but now they have kind of communicated to their entire community that we are only doing recycled silver jewelry, and we are selling it and we don't want to create any more carbon footprint. We don't want to dig the earth to have mine gold in a mine silver or mine metal in our process. So it's very important that bigger brands are taking these steps, and eventually it will be taken by smaller brands, because everyone need to be creative. If you are a retailer and if you have one brand with the recycled metal, you will definitely see the change in consumers, maybe younger consumers, and how it will sell. And I'm sure that eventually there will be more and more companies, those who are only going to do recycle metal thing, because everyone eventually is going to ask for that only.
Tarek, traceability and transparency are 2 major pillars of sourcing. And when it comes to recycled silver, how do you ensure the traceability and transparency of your supply chain? And what role does technology play in this whole scenario?
So I think technology is super important, because it's, when we think about what recycled silver versus mined silver, where it's easy, a lot of refiners, us included, have developed a while ago different technology tools to ensure traceability, from the source to the refined product, that apply very well to mined products. And it's quite easy, because you take a picture of it at the mine, you follow it through. Some people, such as us, use blockchain technology to trace it. Our peers have other solutions that are similar, slightly different as well. So when it's from a mine source, it's much easier. All of a sudden, when you're talking about a recycled source, it goes, maybe through the hands of 5 to 6 different individuals or companies before it comes into the refinery. So you need to have, deep technology that can be applied from the start to the finish, ideally with images that support it, everything to be linked and very, very intertwined. And there are a few companies that have developed such technologies that I'd say work quite well today. But if there isn't a technology, you lose the story, you lose the credibility in the sense of the real value of the recycled nature. And especially when we're talking about brands that are retail and consumer facing, the story is very, very important. And it's very, very important as a plus to sell, but also as, you know, a means of insurance or a mean of really providing that the diligence is being done at a very, very strong level. So for every, what we're looking for in terms of, you know, the best type of recycled material when it comes to silver is sources that have images and that are tracked from the moment there's an end of life product, wherever it may sit in the world, to the bar that comes out at our refinery.
All right, Kinjal, what are the future trends that you foresee in the recycled precious metal space, especially with silver, and how equipped are the members of RJC for this upcoming trends?
You know, I guess industry has absolutely forecasted this, and as I've told you clearly that, you know, there are four refiners sitting in this room. They have already, you know, they are recycled silver and gold, both certified members. Similarly, there are lots of jewellery manufacturing organizations per se. Everyone knows that silver jewellery, if we talk about it, is mainly in India, in Jaipur. Most of the Jaipur industry players, they are already recycle certified, and they are all ready to capture the entire need of recycling. You know, and recycling, what I see is that, you know, Abidh, like in 2004-5, let me just give one example. In 2004-5, there was a new need of people asking KYC, and there was a huge resistance. You know, people were never used to giving KYC to their clients or KYS documents. And today, if you see, like, you know, this 20 years down the line, KYC is very basic norm. So everyone, if you need KYC, everyone provides KYC. So consumer and B2B mindset also changes. And I can say that eventually recycling is going to be very basic norm. It means you will have to do it, otherwise you are not in the business. So there will be huge part of your business which will be only based on recycle metal jewellery or recycle you know, metal equipment or ornaments compared to the mine ornaments. Because, you know, it is very important that we really connect our work with whatever happened in Thailand during the earthquake, or, you know, the heat which is outside of this room, you know, and everywhere what the environment change is going on, we really need to connect ourselves with this very basic normal things. If we connect that, then, you know, we have to run on this path only. And I'm sure that, you know, recycling is going to be a big boom. Everyone will need it.
Tarek, what's your opinion? What would be the biggest opportunity and challenges in the silver recycling in the coming, say, 5 to 10 years?
So, Abid, that's a great question. Thank you very much. And I think it's hard to pick out one, but if I had to, something that's kind of a bit of interest for me today is really the photovoltaic cells, the PV cells. And the reason why, and it's also, I think it applies well to India today, because my understanding is that there's been a significant amount of investment and there's a pretty strong rollout planned or continuing to happen within India. But the reason for why it's so interesting to me is because today it's one of the largest industries that consume silver. And while the scale is huge, if we look at an individual panel or cell, the amount of silver paste that they would have is relatively small and very hard to recover in a way which is both environmentally friendly, economically, and at scale. And I think that, and I know a few companies that are working on this, that have been working on this for quite a while, but I think that when we unlock ways to recover the silver and the within these cells at scale, it's going to really be a game changer, because today we talk about the circularity of it. A lot of this silver is used for purposes that are in the best interest of our planets in the long run. But if all of the silver goes to waste because we cannot recover it, we start to kind of recreate the vicious circle that we're trying to solve. And I think that this kind of problem to solve is really interesting, because it's going to apply in other areas of silver or precious metals as well, where as we try to become more self-sustainable, we're going to have to find ways to recover less and less material or lower concentrations of materials at larger scale.
All right, thank you so much. So I have two questions. By the nature of the question, I'll give the first one to Kinjal, and the second one is open for both of you. So the first question is, how easy or difficult is to create a good brand around recycled silver? What factors help and what factors adversely impact the brands in India?
Very, very interesting question. Of course, there is a huge scope, as we have been discussing about recycling, and we have few Middle Eastern brands and Thailand brands, also Indian brands sitting in here. They are B2B brands, but they are brands in their own segment. And there is absolutely nothing which is very challenging to create recycle brand, but I'm sure there is a huge merit in doing recycling. And yes, of course, you have to change the way you procure your raw material, because that needs to be recycled material. Otherwise, you can't claim that this is recycled metal. That is the only thing I guess you need to change. In terms of what factors have impacted Indian brands, as of now there is no Indian brand like retail. In terms of retail, I'm talking about which is purely based on recycle material. But as we know that we Asians, I'm not talking about Indian, we Asians probably more usually follow what Western world do. And over there, consumers are super aware. Consumers are asking for sustainable products. And over there, recycle brands are getting more premium also. Similarly, that will come to India and Asia. And when it comes to us, I'm sure there'll be more opportunities. So you have to gear up, get ready now, not to be behind. Eventually, when the things comes in, you will have an early mover's advantage.
All right, the next question is traceability a big aspect in real world? In brackets, the person have written, is anyone bothered about it? If yes, then to what extent in India?
So I'll take this. See, traceability is genuinely very important. I don't know whether it is bothered Indian audience or not as of now, but it is very much important when we go outside India. Okay, India, as we have been discussing, it is all price sensitive. We give all breakups of our ornaments, what silver, what gold, what diamonds and all. If you go outside, it is all about where these diamonds have came in from, what is the traceability, where this gold have came in from, what is the traceability of gold, what is the traceability of silver. Eventually it will also come, because the way price of silver is going up, I'm sure that people can easily afford to have traceability of silver, and people will be very happy to communicate this. See, it is very important right now in India. There is no need of communicating, where my silver came in from. When the need will arise, when I feel when the prices will go up and up, I'm sure consumers will ask. I'm sure that will be a great value add statement in your invoice, in your marketing, to be communicated to consumers, and that's how I guess in India we can have more impact.
Tarek, would you like to add anything there?
Yeah, so I'd look at it a little bit differently, and what I mean by that is I think that traceability becomes important because it's a tool, or it's a consequence that's related to the fact that we're trying to be circular in terms of our economy, and maybe looking beyond silver itself, but if we look at precious metals, today India has a huge market of low-grade precious metals that is being sent overseas, and a lot of that material.
Recording in progress.
A lot of that material is being sold at lower, at lower values than the actual value of the material. So there's a lot of, GDP that's exiting India and going into other countries within the world. And maybe that amounts, if we look at it, and we've done a bit of research on it, give or take is, above a few billion a year. It's considerably, the impact is, to solve these issues, we need to have traceability to ensure that the material stays within certain markets, whether we want it within India or to address the concerns from the consumer. So traceability is a tool. Nobody, I think, is going to come and only care about traceability. You care about traceability if you care about your sources, if you care about the impact of the environment. And I think that's very important. So, and it's true that probably if you ask someone in India, do you care about traceability? Traceability needs to matter, I think, in a greater context. And we're seeing that happen. And some people don't care about it, and that's fine. If they don't want to and they don't have to, we're not going to try to force them to. But the impacts are real, and we believe in it, so we're going to continue to focus on it, and we hope that as more and more people educate themselves, they're going to see the value of traceability as a tool, as an essential tool in solving kind of the circular economy.
Thank you, panelists.